I betcha. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to this Friday's episode. This Friday will be update episode volume 5. This will be the 5th one. The first one was during the summer of 2018. The next one was in April, a year ago, of 2019. Then I did another update episode in August of 2019. And then I did another one at the last episode of 2019 was an update episode. And so I'm doing them about every 4 months, which kind of feels like the right amount of time. And so we have number 5 coming up on Friday. Episode is not quite as long. I was looking back. I think the update episode for December was like 3 hours long. This one will not be that long. I think it's about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Not as many updates as the past one, but if I remember correctly, the Tom Brown coverage alone in December lengthened it quite a bit, given that Nathan Lewis had resigned and all of that. We don't have anything quite like that for this episode, but still 2 hours and 15 minutes. I think it's about 29, high 20s, as far as different disappearances that I will talk about. You've already heard about Austin Pivo, but that will be in that one as well. You should know these update episodes, at least when I started them, were a unique thing, that nobody else was doing anything like that. People would just cover some disappearance or murder or whatever and just keep moving on. But now I think my perception is that since I started doing these update episodes, now other podcasts are doing them as well. I like doing them because, first of all, I do get a lot of questions just, maybe once a week or, a few times a week, what's going on with this case? What's going on with that case? So this is a nice way to kind of just update everybody all at the same time. It also gives me an opportunity to expound a little bit more on the disappearance. It also helps for people who are new to the program. If they haven't listened to all the episodes yet, there are now like 190 of them, that this may get their attention and say, oh, maybe I need to go back and listen to that one that kind of caught my ear. What I also do in this episode before I get to the updates is I go through many stats of Unfound. I thought it was about time that I go through how many episodes we've done, how many disappearances, how many people have been featured on Unfound for their disappearances, how many total hours of programming that Unfound has. You should know that Unfound has roughly 341 hours of programming since it started. How long is that? That's about 2 weeks. So if you started listening to the first Susan Lau episode now and just played every episode back to back until you came up to the present, it would take you 2 weeks to do that. I get into some other stats that you may all find interesting as well. So that's how we start out the episode, and then of course we do Unfound news, and then where to find Unfound. And then there will be about 2 hours of me talking about updates. For those of you who have listened to it before, you know how I do it. I just have a list of those cases and just a few notes with each. And I pretty much do it off the top of my head. I just have a few notes to remind me maybe if a name or a date or something. And then just from that, I can expound on those updates. And then at the end, the part that seems to bring the most emotion out is then I also go through and name all of the names of all the people that we've covered on Unfound, whether their cases are solved or not. Starting with Suzanne Lyle, and then up to the present with Christopher Sanders. So that will be this Friday, and I don't anticipate any delays. So I'm thinking at 2 p.m. Eastern on Friday, it will come out right on time. And like I said, I think the episode is about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Let's see what some of you are talking still about the dispatcher getting in trouble. It's a federal violation. Yeah. Sharon says, I eat one thing at a time too, not too unusual. I don't know how unusual it is, Sharon. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody else do that, but I really don't do that as much anymore. But there was a time when that's all I did. Pamela, do you have to take a break from all the work you do in researching and prepping videos, emotional stories, and you can easily feel the hurt from family members on the podcast? Pam, I answered that during the Q&A episode. As far as the emotions that pop up with this program. I don't get emotionally involved. That's not why guests choose to be on the program. That's not why they choose to be interviewed. They're not coming to us, as a shoulder to cry on or anything else. These people are coming to us because they want answers. And they want advice. They want the story of the disappearance out there, the facts, all the information out there in a way that they can trust. That's what we provide. And along the way, because now of all the experience I personally have, I am able to give them some pointers, advice behind the scenes that they can use. And this is important because they do get a lot of advice from people who don't know anything. There are a lot of scam artists out there who are trying to feast on missing persons' families, trying to get money out of them and everything. But with me, they know that I can be trusted. They know that I'm always going to tell them the truth. So I don't come from it from a very emotional point. I feel horrible for these people. But that's not what they're looking from me. Maybe from somebody else, not from me. However, I will say this, not in counter to that, but in addition to that, when I'm not doing Unfound, I don't listen to or watch hardly any other true crime stuff. I just, do this. So I will admit that, you have to have other things in your life, besides your work. But I don't do those other things because I'm stressed out or I'm burned out or anything. It's just because every person who does any job in life, they have, other interests. So that's why it always well, do you know this? Did you hear about this podcast? Do you ever listen? And the answer is usually no. Did you listen to the podcast that was done about this murder? And the answer is 99.99% of the time, no. Because when I'm not working on the program, I'm doing things outside of disappearances and what you might call true crime. Thanks, Mom. I don't know where that came from, Heather. Pamela says, I'm a social worker. I know how important self-care is. Pamela, I've been doing this 3.5 years. I have to admit, Pamela, my opinion is that since I started doing this program 3.5 years, I think I'm much more mentally stable than I was before it. That's probably pretty true. That's really, really, I think, true. I think that Unfound, for me personally, has given me something that nothing else has, as far as pursuits that I've done and everything. And the last 3.5 years, I think, have been some of the most peaceful states of mind that I've had in my life. Especially especially this last year and a half since my mother died. Um, I think it's kind of maybe some people be the opposite, talking about this all the time. For me, it's actually, I think, made me more mentally calm, not and more emotionally calm, not less. Yes, as somebody pointed out, let's get a few more likes of this video before we sign off tonight. If you got in here late, have you given the thumbs up? Have you given this video a like yet? As Carrie says, 43 watching, only 31 thumbs up. Yeah, let's bump that up. Let's hit it. Brian asked me, ever had anyone who got mad at you for doing a show on one of their family members? Has a family member ever got mad at me for covering a family member? Brian, not off the top of my head, but I would be, not like I said, not off the top of my head. The only thing I would say, Brian, is a lot of these families are split. A lot of families, a lot of times you'll find one person in the family who's trying to do everything to find the missing person, and the rest of the family wants nothing to do with it. That's common. It's very common. And so I think what happens, Brian, is that the people who come on the program are the ones who usually get the crap. That kind of situation does not usually make it to me. Where I usually get it is from people who are mentioned in the interview as suspects, or people, people like that. I'm thinking back to the what episode was it? I'm gonna have to look it up. We've covered so many cases now that I wish that I could covered so many people. Let me find it real quick. I know where it is. It's right. Where is she? I will tell you this, Brian. The Mary Lance case. The woman who was mentioned in it. The woman who was used by an alibi by a guy who might have assisted in disposing of Mary Lance. She called me after the interview was done and came out, and she was not pleased, and she hung up on me. She said it made it look like she was having a relationship with this guy when she wasn't. And what I said back to her was, the reason it looks like that so-and-so is because you've never disavowed it, and you've never been able to explain why this guy would use you as an alibi in the first place. That's why people are suspicious of you. It's nothing that I've done. It's stuff that you haven't done. And to that, she hung up. Like I said, I can't help it when facts makes certain people look suspicious or whatever. So there's that. But from family members, Brian, that's usually handled within the family itself. Maybe I've had a couple people who contacted me after the interview and said, she didn't get all the facts, and those people are not usually credible. They're usually control freaks. I early on, I had a sister of a missing person come on the program, and then the brother contacted me privately and says my sister doesn't know what she's talking about, yada, yada, yada. And I said, okay, well, what did she get wrong? Please make a list of the things that she got wrong, and I'll be happy to make corrections or whatever else. The guy never got back to me. And that's usually, Brian, that's very common too. People saying, well, that person doesn't know what she's talking about or he's talking about. And I'll say, oh, fine. Then what did he or she get wrong? Person never can say. Very, very common. Heather says, Carrie has to remind you to do everything like my mom. Okay. Cherie says, healing through helping. That's what we're trying to do. Cherie. The Alaska case wasn't family, but quote unquote family. Yeah, the Alaska case. Yeah, we're not going to get into particular names. Carrie, we don't want to do that. Sherry says, can't help it when facts make sense. Yeah. All right, an hour and 40 minutes. I don't know where the time goes. Like I said, as I was saying when we were starting the program tonight, it seems like we just did this think tank on Sunday night. It seemed like we just did that earlier today. I don't know. So, what did we cover tonight? Took some questions, some really good questions. Just want to check and see how everybody's doing. I don't want you to all live in fear out there. Times are tough. Oil is at like 50 cents a barrel. The Dow's dropped, everything, but I continue to believe that things are going to come back sooner than you think. Talked about the poll question for Christopher Sanders. We talked about Austin Pivo. Reminded you about May 7th is going to be my interview with Dr. Grace Telesco, 6 p.m. Eastern on Facebook. Told you about how a former guest wanted me to delete the episode. I wanted to explain why the episode was late last Friday. Talked about the 9/11 operator who was accessing private files, and she's probably headed to jail. And then I told you about this Friday's episode, which is going to be an update episode, something we do every 4 months. So you will hear this episode, and then the next update episode will be the last Friday of August. That's it, everyone. Good night. Thank you so much. Love talking to all of you. For those people who got in on the super chat, who were they? Angela, Paula, and Jill. Thank you. And we hope to make use of that in the future once I understand it a little bit more. Good night, everyone. Cherie, thank you for monitoring the discussion tonight. Deeply appreciated. Good night.